Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to another Higurashi epi. Last time, Natsume's whole family is, getting a little whack, probably from, also from the syndrome. I don't know if the dad's, I don't know, maybe the dad's not, but we know the mom and the grandma are from Hinamizawa, so they're probably affected. And I think Oishi's dead, which is, it's never a good thing, but yeah, I don't know. Let's continue. It began to rain that afternoon and it never stopped. I slightly tilted my umbrella as I looked up at the sky. The sky was covered by dull rain clouds, and raindrops were striking the ground non-stop. Since the height of summer was upon us, the air around me was thick and heavy, clinging to my skin. I could feel water soaking into my school shoes every time I stepped on a puddle, and my socks were getting uncomfortably wet. I've always hated rainy days. Water falling from the sky was a perfectly natural phenomenon, but rainy weather always made me feel depressed. Of course, people in Okonomiya often said that farmers would be in trouble without the rain, but for someone like me who never had to deal with farming work, rain was just something that caused various fun activities to be cancelled. Crowds moved to and fro, everyone walking while hiding their faces with an umbrella in their hand. Even when they bumped into others, or water bounced off them, they didn't even try to look at one another. All any of them can see is the narrow space directly ahead in their line of sight. So, the crowds and everything else become obstacles on rainy days. The same trip takes longer than usual and feels more depressing than ever. And I let out a sigh. I noticed that I've been sighing a lot recently. The intervals between them were getting shorter, and I've been exhaling heavier as well. It's almost like I was carrying a load on my back that gradually increased each day. I was disappointed in myself for thinking so pessimistically. The Cold War between Mom and Grandma has been going on for over a week. Mom will not listen to Grandma at all, and Grandma is just as stubborn. There's no room to compromise. Grandma has always been kind and gentle, but she can be too set in her ways for her own good, so this confrontation will likely continue for a while. At times like these, Dad never intervenes. He stays far away from the two of them and avoids them, pathetically enough. So instead, I'm the one treated like their mediator, or rather, their buffer. I complained to myself as I reflected on those bitter thoughts. I'm not a message board or a tape recorder. Just passing messages along to the other party, word for word, is mentally exhausting. It wears me out. Even my patience has its limits. I want to hit something to vent my dissatisfaction. How easy this would all be if I could just trade my role with someone else. Besides, how unfair is it that they treat me like a child all the time, only to treat me like their handyman when it's convenient for them? Heavy clouds filled my heart, driving me to depression and the brink of tears. My beloved family. That's right, up until this disaster, I was proud of my family. My needy but resolute mom, my weak but calm dad, my old-fashioned but gentle grandma. Everyone had their shortcomings, but that was true for me too. Besides, even taking those things into consideration, there were still enough advantages to outweigh the disadvantages, so I never really minded. I understood implicitly that it is just who they are. But now the disadvantages have been reversed, our precious family bonds were being torn apart. After voicing my wish, I took a calm breath and let out my biggest sigh of the day until my lungs felt empty. And when I raised my head, my normally short stride became longer as I walked forward. Today is Saturday. I was recovering from my final exams, but I had my part-time job at the Care and Welfare Center today. Oh no, this might not be good, because we know Ahina Mizawa, residents there. He might be freaking out too. All the old folks there are looking forward to seeing my usual cheerful self, so I don't want to worry them by bringing such a dark mood with me. Since I have no knowledge of nursing care and no experience, all I can do is just work hard. I took the train to get to the center. There was a slight gap between the rain clouds, and I was relieved to see a little of the bright sky. Right now, this was the only place I could relax. No, oh no, dude. She's just setting herself up, man. Well, we're chilling for now. I adjusted my clothes and entered the waiting room of the center, but I furrowed my eyebrow when I noticed that nobody was there. The center always has a caregiver on standby, ready to deal with a situation at any time. That's still the case even while the tenants are asleep, and they take breaks in shifts, so the only time the waiting room is left empty is during the 3 meals of the day and snack time. After saying that, I decided to check around the rest of the floor and put my hand on the doorknob, but just then... here we go. Suddenly hearing an angry voice from beyond the door caused me to jump in surprise, then... I was more surprised by the source of the voice than by the volume, because as long as I've been working here, I've never heard the mild-mannered Yamase-san sound so upset. Also, was that Hatakeyama-san I heard her say just now? I rushed out of the waiting room and quickly headed to the source of the voice. More surprisingly, a crowd of people was gathered at the end of the hallway. All the elderly people were looking toward the back room from a distance. And as I'd suspected, that room turned out to be... Lowering my head, I pushed through the crowd of elderly people as gently as possible, and when I finally reached the entrance of the room, I instinctively held my breath and steadied myself. What? Blood? Is red? It was a disturbing sight. One thing immediately stuck out when I entered the room. Okay, not blood. It's just the vibe. Life-size human-shaped paper cuts were hanging from the windows and the curtain rails. They fluttered about like Tanabata decorations. Those are the weather things, right? About 6 cutouts were swinging together in the breeze from the air conditioner. And when I inspected them closely, one of them contained the name of Old Man Hatakeyama, and another had a different name written on it, something resembling ink. Weirder than that were all the red tags attached to the walls of the room. And the floor. So it is literally red. Man's making it all red, man. And the ceiling. They were also firmly attached to every piece of furniture in the room. Their numbers were so terrifyingly overwhelming that the formerly white room was completely dyed red. One of them unexpectedly fell at my feet. Message. X. I cautiously picked it, and the characters written here and there in red ink spelled out a strange sentence. What is this? An old-fashioned prayer or something? It was like an incantation, and the part I was able to read clearly was the name Oyashiro-sama. Oyashiro-sama, Oyashiro-sama. No, that's not all. When I looked closely, the red color was a really dark red, dry and thick, and held a iron like stench. It's his blood. He's writing in his blood. I threw the tape away while screaming in horror. The lukewarm feeling of the recently dried part. It was blood! I merely wiped it off with my apron, but a chilling sensation ran down my back and through my entire body. I couldn't stop shivering from the unpleasant feeling remaining in my fingertips. And, mixed in with the sound of the people talking in the hallway, I heard those strange words echoing as if they had taken a hold of my heart. It was old man Hatakeyama who recited all of that in a hoarse voice. Oh god. Hearing another scream brought me back to myself. An old man was praying at a bed fashioned like an altar. In the middle of the room, I could see Yamase-san looking flustered beside it. Oh god, he's in a trance! However, even with Yamase-san shouting angrily in his ears, old man Hatakeyama continued praying relentlessly, as if possessed by something. Finally, at the end of her patience, Yamase-san violently grabbed his arm and tried to drag him up on his feet. That's dangerous. If you lift him like that, you'll dislocate his shoulder. Feeling that this sort of behavior was abnormal, I rushed down to Yamase-san to stop her. She instinctively tensed up and glared my way with burning rage in her eyes, but then her face relaxed and she slowly let go, as if looking at me had brought her back to her senses. Yamase caught her breath while fixing her hair. After seeing that, the other caregivers standing frozen with indecision outside the room heaved sighs of relief and began sending the crowd of curious, anxious elderly people back to their rooms. Still calming down, Yamase-san looked over the room dumbfounded. There was no need to look again to see how abnormal, no, how bizarre it was in here. He's still going. So spooky, man. And all the while, old man Hatateyama continued muttering that odd prayer like he was chanting some kind of strange spell as he kneeled and hung his head. After seeing that, Yamase-san and I could only look at each other in bewilderment. Sir Hatateyama, sir, what on earth was this about? How had things turned out this way? This old man wasn't acting like this the last time I saw him, right? He smiled at me and enjoyed telling me old stories about Hinamizawa, didn't he? So, why did he suddenly change so much? I didn't understand. I just didn't understand. The subject of Hinamizawa was even steeping into this place. It was gradually taking over more and more of my world.
気候や妄言で周囲に迷惑をかけるって噂があってね。私も今まではまさかって思っていたけど。そんな、それは違う。
But then...
すみません。山瀬さん、お客様が。後にしてください。今立て込んでいますから。でも、お忙しい中申し訳ありません。
Tomoe!
お時間は取らせませんので、
Hello.
協力をお願いできませんでしょうか。
Yo, that's just here in Sprite. The voice came behind the caregiver from a woman wearing a red suit.
何ですか、あなたは。お初にお目にかかります。私、柿内署の刑事で、見ないと申すものです。見ない？刑事？
Yamase-san's face tensed up, and I was sure I was no different. At the very least, I couldn't imagine anything good coming from the police asking for your cooperation when you hadn't done anything. This woman seemed used to that, so she calmly took out her notebook without resorting to flattery or acting overbearing. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were carefully fixated on old man Hatakeyama behind us.
実はこちらに入居されております畠山一馬さんにちょっとお伺いしたいことがあってお邪魔しました。面会をお許しいただけますでしょうか。どういったご用件でしょうか。先日起こりましたhinami沢村大災害の件についてです。畠山さんのご一家がhinami沢村の出身だとお聞きしまして、少々お話をお伺いできればと。
Huh? I was barely able to stifle a gasp of surprise. Still, I was suddenly caught by the feeling that all my energy was being drained from my limbs. Why is this police officer asking about the disaster in Hinamizawa? I fearfully stole a glance at Yamase-san's face. Good, apparently she hadn't noticed my panic. The detective Minai said, "Excuse me," and began to step into the room. When Yamase-san noticed, she boldly stood in front of the detective to stop her.
ここは医療施設です。警察の方とはいえ、ご本人とご家族の同意もなく、勝手な申し出はご遠慮願いますでしょうか。ええ、確かに。ですから、畠山さんのご家族にはご了解をいただいております。こちら、ご親族の同意書です。どうぞご確認ください。
Then Detective Minai removed an envelope from her breast pocket and handed it to Yamase-san. After reviewing the documents inside, Yamase-san reluctantly nodded in defeat. What a frightening person. I couldn't help but feel my body trembling. This Detective Minai had anticipated our reactions in advance and prepared suitable countermeasures?
手短にお願いします。ご協力感謝します。藤田君、よろしく。はい。
The male subordinate detective standing next to Detective Minai nodded and, after urging the caregiver to step aside with a glance, he took up a position in front of the entrance. Even I could tell he was indicating the others to stay clear of the room.
さて
After lightly clearing her throat, Detective Minai walked up to the place where I was standing with Hatakeyama-san. Then she crouched down to look at the mumbling old man Hatakeyama in the eyes as he lay prone on the floor.
畠山一馬さんですね。
Of course, the old man didn't respond. However, Detective Minai wasn't deterred and continued speaking in a gentle voice.
ひなみ沢の一件テレビで拝見しました。お亡くなりになられた方は2000人を超えるとお聞きしました。突然のご不幸、さぞかしご心労のこととお察し申し上げます。ただその大災害に差し当たってふと小耳に挟んだのですが、この火山ガス災害はお社様のたたりだとの噂があるそうですね。村の守り神様であるはずのお社様が一夜にして村を全滅させた。これはどういう意味なんでしょうか。
Old man Hatakeyama was still muttering something like usual, but there was a sudden twitch in his shoulders. When she noticed that, Detective Minai took a photo out of her notebook and held it in front of her so he could get a better look. It was too far away for me to see clearly, but it looked like a girl dressed in a shrine maiden's outfit. Rika! You made it! Yo! She actually made it! Did we actually see her? Shrine Rika. Where's the ponytail and headpiece?
これが撮られた今年の6月19日。あなたもここのお祭りに参加して、そしてこの少女と会っている。そうですね。この少女、古出理香はお社様の巫女だそうですね。そして大災害が起こった前日の6月22日、何者、そしてこの子が殺されたことでたたりが起きたとあなた方は考えている。たたりは古出家の当主が殺されたからだと。そういえばひなみ沢村で5年間同じくお社様のたたりということで毎年1人の死者と1人の行方不明者が出ていたそうですね。今年もまたそれに従って2人の犠牲者が出ていた。これについて何かご存知のことはありますか？
I do. You're gonna give him a heart attack. I then noticed the old man who had tried desperately not to listen began to tremble, and though his face was bereft of emotion just up until a moment ago, he began to fill with terror. And the incomprehensible prayers he was mumbling gradually mixed in new words.
畠山さん、知らないはずはないですよね。だってあなたはこうやってお社様へのお祈りを奉っている。ひなみ沢村に古くから伝わる習わしと作法に従い、守り神様を拝礼するための祭壇を組み上げて、ね、違いますか？
知らん。わしは何も知らん。
The old man turned his head to escape, however, Detective Minai quickly moved in front of him. I was in a blind spot until that moment, so I finally noticed the detective's face. Detective Minai spoke calmly, but her eyes were sharp like a hawk. They were trying to interrogate her opponent with their piercing line of sight. What? Why? First of all, paranormal phenomena like curses had no factual basis, so why was this detective trying to investigate this? Also, what was the connection to old man Hatakeyama, who had been living away from Hinamizawa? I wanted to ask, but if I did, then I'd end up in the same boat as him. Me too?
知っていることだけで構わないんです。何でもどんな小さなことでも十分です。教えていただけませんか？お社様のたたりのことを。そしてあなた方ご老人がそれほどまでに口を閉ざし怯える本当の理由を。やめて！
Oh.
やめてください！
That's me. It was like watching a carnivore stalk its prey. I couldn't endure watching Detective Manai pressure this man any longer, so I instinctively stepped in. I stood in front of Hatateyama-san to protect him. Yo, it's this. This was in the opening. I do remember this, but for some reason, in my mind, this was like, Toto. Not an old guy. But still based? Look at that. Boom. Thumbnail, baby. I do love Tomoe's drip, though. The, like, oversized belt thing. Looks kind of sick.
あなた何を
Detective Minai acutely tilted her head to the side while raising an eyebrow. She was clearly disturbed by my actions, and her expression was making me feel uncomfortable. Still, I pushed myself hard and mustered the courage to speak.
この人は畠山さんは大災害があってすごく傷ついてるんです。
I like those little buns in Natsume's hair. You can't really see it from this right. It's kind of sick, too.
刑事さんならもう少し
Double
感謝の
bun.
気持ちを考えてくださってもいいんじゃないですか。それにこんなやり方って卑怯です。
Cowardly. What the?
家族が同意してくれたって言っても本人はまだ協力するとは言って
True.
ません。
True.
そうでしょ。
You're just doing this because he's old and in a hospital. He didn't give consent.
夏美ちゃん
Oh, she's mad. Detective Manai lightly clicked her tongue and adjusted her hair in irritation. Then she sighed and began to turn away. But suddenly, she looked toward my face as though she noticed something.
ずいぶん親身にかばうのね。ひょっとしてあなたもひなみ沢の
My whole body was shivering again. In that moment, I finally realized I had stirred up a hornet's nest. I could have shut my mouth and stayed unnoticed. I could have rushed off like the other caregivers as though this had nothing to do with me. Then this detective probably wouldn't have asked me that question. Why did I speak up? Why did I step forward? If I revealed that I too was from Hinamizawa, would I lose my place here?
ひなみ沢出身の人は非行や妄言で周囲に迷惑をかけるってね。私もまさかとは思っていたけど、こうして実際に見ちゃうと。
やっぱりあなたも違います。私ひなみ沢の人じゃないです。
From Otonomiya! I heard it. There's no way I could have missed it. The heavy gasp on old man Hatateyama let out. By no means did it sound like words, but rather like something even clearer and more sharp, deeply gouging out my heart.
そうごめんなさいね、変なことを聞いて。
Detective Minai, who had been staring at me for a while, finally relaxed her body and lowered her head, and while stooping her veins, she spoke with a smile.
ちょっとね、捜査に行き詰まっていて。ひなみ沢の人たちって警察の聞き込みには非協力的でね。気が立ってたとはいえ、とんだ言いがかりだったわ。いえ。そうよね。憶測で決めつけてひなみ沢の人間かなんて聞き方は良くなかったわね。許してくれると嬉しいわ。別にそんな。
I'm not mad you jumped to conclusions, rather. I just wanted to say that. Just wanted to tell her one thing. But I couldn't. I no longer had the right to take back the lie I told.
失礼します。
I lightly bowed and left the room without looking back. I couldn't see old man Hatateyama's face very well. Well, you made it. Though you're probably on her watch list. The clock on the wall ticked. The 2 needles stopped at 6 o'clock. Right then, a quiet chime rang out from the clock speakers, indicating that it was at the end of my shift. The rain clouds from earlier must have gone away. Red light from the sunset was pouring into the room, as if they were chased away by the commotion from a little while ago. After that, old man Hatateyama was stricken by a sudden fever and had to be transported to the adjacent hospital. I was probably the only one who knew whose fault that was. While sitting in the waiting room feeling depressed, the door immediately opened. It was Yamase-san.
お疲れ様、夏美ちゃん。今日は本当にありがとうね。
いえ、私は。
I didn't feel like saying anything more, so I shut my mouth. Yamase-san lightly tapped my shoulder and nodded repeatedly with a gentle smile.
ごめんなさいね。本当ならあなたじゃなくて、私が入居している人たちを守らなきゃいけなかったのに。
山瀬さん。
After saying that, Yamase-san began to bite her lip. This was the usual gentle and kind Yamase-san.
私こそごめんなさい。山瀬さんが許可したのに勝手に出張っちゃって。刑事さんたち怒っていませんでしたか？
あまり機嫌は良くなかったかもしれないわね。だけど、そんなことは関係ないわ。このセンターで暮らしている人の生活を守ることが一番のことだから。
And with a bitter smile, Yamase-san sat down in the chair in front of me. Come to think of it, I heard that Yamase-san was summoned to a meeting by the hospital's officer afterwards. I wonder what they discussed.
実はね、さっきの会議で畠山さんを精神科の病棟に移す話が出たの。
Surprised, I stood up fast enough to knock over the chair behind me. Treating such a healthy old man like there was something wrong with his head? That made no sense.
その通りよ。でも、さっき見た通り、集団生活の中でああいった突飛な行動は残念だけど不適格とみなされても仕方ない。だからご家族に連絡して了解をいただけたら来週には入院させる手はずになっていたわ。
Yamase-san raised her hand to interrupt me.
さっき夏美ちゃんが身を挺して畠山さんをかばってくれたでしょ。あれを見て私も少し考え直したの。この介護福祉センターに来るすべてが問題のない人だとは限らない。中にはご家族との共同生活がうまくいかずにここへ来てリハビリを行う人もいる。だから私たちの仕事はその人たちが元のご家族と一緒に暮らせるよう手助けをして教えてあげること。こんな大切なことを私はいつの間にか忘れて。
山瀬さん。
だからね、夏美ちゃん。
はい。
Yamase-san took my hand and wrapped around her own around it. They were soft, very warm and comforting.
高校を卒業したらぜひ介護士の資格を取りなさい。あなたはいえ、あなたみたいな優しい子がこの仕事に就くべきなのよ。私もできるだけ応援してあげるから。
山瀬さん。
Ah, I was happy, delighted, because to me, her words felt like the first ray of hope in my uncertain future. Nevertheless, I couldn't bring myself to genuinely rejoice because I had been lying to someone as kind as her. Compassionate? Open-hearted? That can't be right. Definitely not. I was just a shameless liar and a coward. I wasn't worthy of the things Yamase-san said about me. But even so,
私頑張ります。頑張って資格取れるように勉強してもっともっと役に立てるようになって山瀬さんと一緒に働けるようになります。
Umase-san nodded in agreement. So what if I'm lying? So what if it's hypocritical? So long as I can keep living peacefully in this town the way I always have. All I can do now is commit to my lie and keep doing my best for others. Sure. It's getting late. Today was an eventful day. My body was so tired. It felt as heavy as lead. I wanted to hurry home and go to bed. Bars? I didn't even need dinner. I just wanted to lie in my bed right away and sleep like a baby. But if I skipped dinner, Mom would probably blow up again, so just suck it up and eat tasteless food around a gloomy dinner table, devoid of conversation. It's depressing at home. If it's going to be like that again, I don't want to return home. I want to go somewhere else, escape to a world without pain and hardship. While thinking that, I tried to leave through the main gate and just then, Chisato. I'm thinking a wild Chisato. Nope.
こんにちは、夏美さん。
That is not a wild Chisato. That is Tomoe. While saying that, a shadow stepped closer. It belonged to the detective I met earlier, Minai.
そう睨まないでちょうだい。私も仕事柄、ああいった聞き方しかできないの。嫌な思いをさせたことは本当に悪かったと思っているわ。畠山のおじいちゃん、熱を出して入院しました。
We're mad.
あなたのせいです。
The scene fell silent. Detective Minai's attempt at a pacifying smile faded, and her face grew dead serious again. I flinched a little at the thought that I'd angered her, but surprisingly she gently bowed her head and looked downward.
やりすぎたことは認める。捜査が行き詰まって気持ちがせいて強引に聞き込みをしたことは私のミスです。ごめんなさい。もう同じことはしないってここで誓うわ。
I never expected to receive an apology, so I swallowed the vitriolic words I'd planned to say. Unable to stand the awkward atmosphere, I looked away from her and began to walk by.
それじゃあさようなら。ええ、また会いましょうね。君吉夏美さん。
She knows! Surprised by what she told me, I stopped in my tracks and turned around. Even in the dark, I could clearly see Detective Minai facing me with arms crossed, staring dangers at me.
胸の名札見えたからね。そして君吉はひなみ沢村御三家と呼ばれる有力な旧家の名字の一つ。
She knew for a while. Oh man. She knew? This woman, just what was she trying to get out of me?
ね、君吉夏美さん。ひなみ沢村のことは本当にお気の毒だったと思っている。でもね、私も簡単には引けないの。刑事魂にかけてもね。あなたは何を。
What are you trying to find out? I tried to ask, but my voice refused to come out as my throat were clogged. But Detective Minai's assault continued before I could compose myself.
真実を、そしてあなたが知るすべてをね。
That's a chapter break. Oh no, we got an enemy. It's okay, just give us a bat. Then it's Gucci. Joking. Yo, it's a chapter end. Okay, short chapter. But we got 3 tips. Very short chapter. It was just a 40-minute chapter, man. Alright, we got old local news article. Send me. Around 1:30 a.m. on the 25th, a fire broke out in a two-story wooden flat owned by Yusuke Manai-san? What? Oh, this is Tomoi's father. 43, the chief inspector of the Setagaya District Police Department. Approximately 170 square meters of property were burned down. According to the investigation conducted by the Setagaya station, a neighbor came home from work and noticed a fire in the first floor bedroom of Manai-san's house, then immediately called 911. Though the fire department rushed to the house and extinguished the fire around 2 a.m., the burned bodies of Manai-san and his wife, Nabumi-san, 41, were found in the first floor bedroom where it originated. Additionally, the firefighters rescued their daughters, Tomoe-san, 17, and Madoka-san, 13. We knew about Madoka from episode 1, who were sleeping on the second floor. They suffered minor burns and carbon monoxide poisoning, but were otherwise stable. The aforementioned police station conducted an on-site investigation that same day. Due to the lack of adequate heat source in the first floor bedroom, both an accident and arson are being considered as potential causes of the fire. Tomoe-san is a record holder in high strolls, women running, high jump, and was a leading candidate as Tokyo's representative in this year's National Sports Festival, so stakeholders were shocked to learn of her sudden misfortune. What did this team to sabotage Tomoe? Because that would be the most fucked up thing I've ever heard. A housewife in the neighborhood reported, I came to investigate when I heard the sirens and the area around the first floor was burning intensely. They were a good family with a good reputation in the neighborhood, so I feel sorry for the two daughters left behind. Excerpt from the local evening news, June 4th, 1971. Okay. Little Tomoe lore. Never heard anyone. Mother and daughter. What the heck? It's crazy out here. The moment I saw it, a chill ran through my entire body. Numerous goosebumps broke out along my skin and a cold sweat ran down my back. Grandma's going crazy. Upon seeing my own house in this terrible state, I nearly dropped my shopping basket. A gaudy display of colorful candles standing one by one on each side of the gate. And a thick Shinto straw festoon hung over the gate with several zigzagging paper streamers shaking in the wind. And it wasn't just the gate, there were also decorations on the entryway, the window, and the fence around the garden. At that moment, a breeze passed right in front of me, and as a result, the white paper streamers hanging from the straw festoon made an awful racket as they swayed about. Rustle, rustle, rustle. And the streamers weren't the only thing making a lot of noise. When I looked up at the trees in the garden, I noticed several solid white human-shaped paper figures. Rustle, 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 rustle. It exuded an incredibly creepy aura. When I looked closely at those humanoid figures, I noticed characters written on them. Toji, Haruka, Aki, Natsumi. Their names. There was no mistaking it, those were the names of everyone in my family, almost as if these humanoid figures are stand-ins for us. What do you think? I suddenly grimaced when I noticed the burning smell. I looked at my feet to see a stack of firewood burning not too far from the gate. Yo, the neighborhood association's not gonna like this. Before I could even think, I was stomping on the firewood. The fire was soon extinguished, but now I had soot over my new favorite pair of shoes I'd recently bought. That's just unlucky. I instinctively looked up to drain my eyes away from the bizarre desecration of my home, and I found myself shocked again. The white walls of the house were now jet black. Moreover, the blackness wasn't from soot. The words written all across the walls in black looked like a curse.
これのカム床に
Hey, it's the Hatateyama prayer.
神を捧げたて祭りてかしこみかしこみも恋のみ松楽を平らげく安らげく彦示してお社の狼の高き広き生かしき
Feeling the gazes of bystanders, I turned around. I saw some familiar faces, the wife of Tono-san who lived 3 doors down and her friend Shirashi-san. The two of them were staring dumbfoundedly at my house and whispering quietly to each other.
どうしたのかしらあの君吉さんのお宅ほらあそこにおばあちゃんがいたでしょ
It's kind of sick, high teeth.
道で挨拶してもうつむいてブツブツ言ってる変わったお年寄りがなんだか変なおまじないに取りつかれているそうねあの奥さんもお気の毒に
That's her. I turned away and quickly ran into the house. Like hell they felt sorry. Did they think I couldn't see that blatant befuddlement and scorn on their faces when they said that? I kicked off my soot-covered shoes while fighting to hold back my disdain. The inside of the house was eerily quiet.
お母さん
I called out from the entrance. Mother ought to be awake at this hour. There are many young families in this neighborhood, but relatively few elderly people. My mother had trouble finding friends around her age, so she stopped going out like she used to. Even now, I still felt guilty about that. By forcing my reluctant mother to leave Otonomiya, I've actually made her quite lonely. But I believe it would have been far more disrespectful to leave her all alone in that town. That's why I insisted my husband that my mother should live with us.
お母さん帰ってますかお母さん
Making my way through the house, I walked down the hallway toward the nearest room and peered inside. She's not in the living room. That means she must be in the back room with the shrine? Oh, well, at least she's alive. Just then, I heard a faint voice coming through the gap in the sliding door. She's just vibing.
かしこみも恋のみ立て松楽を平らげく安らげく着こしめしてお社の狼の高き広き生かしき
お母さん
I quietly peered in and saw Mother devotedly offering incomprehensible prayers to the shrine. The consistent rhythm and the lack of inflection sounded really creepy, like she was reciting sutras.
俺の神床に祝いたて祭り捧げたて祭りで沈めたて祭るかしこみも恋のみ立て松楽をお社の狼の
Seeing her curled up and prostrated like that transformed my concern into revulsion. Her body looked deformed, covered in wrinkles and gray hair. Was this person really my mother? Was I born from such a hideous, undignified woman? Jesus.
お母さん
俺の神床に祝いたて祭り捧げたて祭りで沈めたて祭るかしこみ かしこみも恋のみ立て松楽をお社の狼の高き広き生かしきお社の狼の
I got the chills. A hot yet cold sensation ran through my entire body and seized my heart. Why won't she look back? After all the effort I put into calling out to her. What a weird sentence. She should be aware I'm here. Oh, that's right. That must be it. She always ignores me when she's in a bad mood. Even if I called out, tried talking to her, or sincerely apologized to her, she'd pretend I wasn't there like a pebble on the roadside.
ねえお母さん
俺の神床に祝いたて祭り
Sorry, we gotta speed run this prayer. We heard this like 10 times, and it's really slow. I already said I was sorry, didn't I? Oh god. It's still going! I may have put it off a little because Natsumi was around, but I did apologize to you before going to bed and even the next morning for being too harsh with you at dinner, didn't I? But what about you, Mother? You disturbed me, you humiliated me in front of Natsumi, and now you're going to ignore me until you're satisfied? Not to mention, putting up those bizarre decorations around the house without our permission? Hey, don't you understand? I'm the one who will have to clean that up, you know? I'm the one who will have to apologize to the neighbors for disturbing the peace, you know? I'm the one who will have to cover for you to keep Toji-san and Natsumi from getting too worried, you know? It's louder! Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. That's enough. Stop chanting those accursed spells and think about how much trouble you're causing all of us. And if you continue to ignore us or insist on causing a ruckus even after all that, then all I have to do is choose a simpler way of dealing with it? Well, please don't. Hopefully not something like, I mean, I don't know what she's thinking. Alright, one more. Steadily turning. Class!
あら
The Dane!
うちのクラスに何か用
ああ、いや、たまにじゃなくて、ちさにな。
私に
Look at Tomato, man. Tomato appreciation.
いやー参ったねこりゃあーでも今週は何かと予定が入ってるから来週でもいい
何の話をしてるんだ。
デートのお誘いでしょああちなみにディナーはフランス料理
Excuse me?
でよろしくね
違う。この前貸した教科書返してもらいに来ただけだ。
なんだよちょっとしたジョークだってのそんなにマジに怒るなよ
I took out the textbook that was stored at my desk while grumbling to myself, and then I shouted here while offering it with a callous gesture.
どうしたのさアキラ
いや、別に。
Akira carefully surveyed the classroom while grabbing the textbook. Since he was so conspicuous about it, I began to speak with a wicked grin on my face.
夏美ならトイレだよ
Tot?
覗きに行くなら連れてってあげるけど
そんな趣味はね。
やっぱりここに来た目的はそれか
じゃあな。
Owned. Akira's face turned red all the way to his ears, and he lost the will to respond. Then he abruptly turned around and walked out of the classroom with a short stride.
ほんとアキラってヘタレ街道まっしぐらだよね。別に理由作らなくても夏美に会いたかったら普通に来ればいいのにさ。
アキラちゃんは純情なんだよ。誰かさんと違ってね。
誰かさんって誰のことだよ。
さあ誰のことでしょうか。
Who indeed?
あのね。
それにそれだけ本気ってことだと思うよ。アキラちゃんが夏美のことを思ってる気持ちはね。
私だってさ、結構
No, she does like Tatura. What the?
分かって
Unlucky.
るよ。一応私は分かってるつもりだから、今でも正直私はどうしたらいいのかなって迷ってる。
それじゃあ、もし私がぶち壊したいって言えば、あんたは協力してくれるって。
What the? Sabotage Natsumi?
そうね。
It's kind of fucked up.
あんたがそう望むなら一度限りで手を貸してあげるけど、本気？
It would be easy to destroy that girl's love. A simple word or three would surely spell the permanent end of her romance. I would probably understand her personality even better than Atra, so if I wanted to put my feelings before hers, there's all sorts of tactics I could resort to. In an extremely fair and effective way.
千里。
おいおい、タマさんよ。なんて顔してるのかね、君は。
I lightly played with Tamako's bangs, and then, after letting out a heavy sigh, I stretched my arms as far as they could go.
ちーちゃんとしてはだ。付き合う同士なんだから、二人ともしっかりせんかいってのが本音だけどね。慌てる様子をからかうのも楽しいけど、そればっかりだといい加減飽きちゃうからさ。
まったく。あんな感じだと二人ともデートしても緊張しっぱなしで疲れちゃうでしょうね。
そうだ。ここは一つ私たちが一肌脱ぐか。
一肌脱ぐって千里。
Rare Tamako face?
あんたが言うとなんかいやらしいんだけど。
Okay.
失礼な。私はとてもフェアになおかつ有効的なやり方でだね。
Perhaps I'll come to deeply regret this someday. But right now, this seems like the best choice to me. Oh, that's good. We're safe. Okay. Even though it was a short chapter, they hit us with the triple tip, so it actually filled out pretty nicely. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching as always. It's getting heated everywhere. I feel like it's it's gonna be bad when it happens. Something bad's gonna happen, whether it's from Natsume's mother or grandmother or Natsume herself. It's gonna get all fucked up. But yeah, we'll see it through to the end, of course. Anyways, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.